All right, good morning. This is a review video for you guys to get you ready for the Chapter 12 test. Okay, so listen closely and it should get you ready. Okay, the 7 factors of the economy do not include government. Okay, remember that. They do not include government. Labor and demand, profit, money and credit, transportation, labor force, all that stuff is part of it, but government is not. All the men, women, and children available are the labor force, okay? That's called the labor force. Things in nature that are useful are called natural resources. People's desire for something is called the demand, right? You demand certain products. Money that you get to keep after you pay all of your expenses is called profit. Okay, it's called profit. Now, what caused the labor force to increase in the Northeast? And the answer is immigration. Immigration helped the labor force increase. Here's a question for you. Are fish a natural resource? Well, they appear in nature, right? So yes, they are. How about coal? Where do you get coal from? Is that a natural resource? I think so, right? How about water? That's a natural resource, right? Iron, natural resource, right? Because you dig it up out of the ground, right? How about textiles? That's cloth. No, that is not a natural resource. People make that, okay? Rubber is a natural resource out of a tree, but a computer is not. Okay, so you get the picture, right? So just remember that natural resources come strictly out of nature. The most important transportation developments were canals, steamboats, and steam trains. Okay, railroads. Okay, so remember those. All right, those are the 3 important ones. The Boston Manufacturing Company was the large textile mill that produced cotton in the Northeast. It was called the Boston Manufacturing Company. There was a demand for U.S. products because they were often less expensive than imported goods. In other words, we Americans were now producing our own stuff. We didn't have to get a lot of stuff from Europe, so we could produce it cheaper at home. So it was less expensive. Most of the labor force in the New England textile mills were young women. Remember that. Remember the textile industry up in the Northeast, most of the workers were actually young women. Okay, so that's important for you guys to know. The Women's Rights Convention, remember that one? That was Seneca Falls. The Seneca Falls Convention was where the women and 40 men, I think, showed up and said, hey, you know, women should be equal to men. So that was the Seneca Falls Convention. The right to vote is called suffrage. Okay, the right to vote is called suffrage. Let's see, which industry created thousands of new jobs in the 1800s? And banking, construction, fishing, or railroad? And the answer is railroad. There were lots of railroads being built across America in the early 1800s. From about 1830, kind of mid-1800s, 1830, to 60 or 70. And they employed a lot of people, took a lot of people to build railroad tracks. So railroads was the industry that saw a lot of job growth. Land grant colleges, remember? Most of the land grant colleges were out west. Okay, most of them were out west. The East already had colleges and universities. The South didn't have very many at this point in time, but they didn't care. But out in the West, there were a lot of land grant colleges that were established. The most abundant natural resource out west was land for farming. I had told you that in a previous lecture. The tools that helped develop the West were the steel plow and the Oops. The mechanical reaper and the steel plow. Okay, so remember that. The mechanical reaper, you could, harvest a lot of land with that. And the steel plow broke up the prairie, which was really hard, heavy soil. So the mechanical reaper and the steel plow were the most important tool developments out west. Okay, what helped Western farmers get their products to market? And the answer is steamboats. Steamboats. They could travel down the Mississippi River and or the Ohio River as well. So there was a big demand for Western agricultural products because of an increasing population in Europe. It was mostly in Europe. So we would export food to Europe. Okay? Most profits in the West were made from farming. Since most people were farmers, that's how they earned their money. So most of the profits were through farming. All right? What was the most important economical development down south? And it was the cotton gin. Remember, the cotton gin was created to sort the seeds, get the seeds out of the cotton efficiently and quickly. So the quicker you could do that, the better it was, and the faster you could process cotton, so the more cotton you could grow. Okay, most of the southern laborers were slaves. The people who worked on the plantations were slaves. So remember, down south there was slavery. Okay? All right, the most important product down south being grown was cotton. Cotton was king. And during the development of the South, money and credit was available, but it was mostly to large plantations. The rich plantation owners could get whatever money they wanted from the banks. So remember that it was the large plantations that could get the money. And lastly, excuse me again, allergies. What two factors were necessary for the Southern economy to develop? And the answer is slave labor and land. If you had land, you could have a plantation. If you had a plantation, you got slaves to work the plantation. So slave labor and land were the two factors that were necessary for the Southern economy. That basically is the test, guys. Anything else in the review sheet, don't worry about. But I was hoping this helps you, okay? So talk to you later. We'll try to have the test in a couple days, probably Monday, okay? Bye.